Welcome everyone to the Chicago Football Connection podcast. I'm your host Steve Letizia. Follow me on Twitter at CFC Bears. Joined by my co-host Luke O'Grady. Follow him on Twitter at Luke O'Grady. And we're talking obviously Chicago Bears. We're talking Week 1, and we're hopefully getting into a little bit of Week 2 as well. We're talking about obviously the Bears' Week 1 win over the Titans, 24-17. I don't think it went how anyone wanted it to go, but
I
they
mean,
came away with a
what?
win, and that's really all that matters in Week 1. But we're gonna go over everything. Obviously, the offense was disappointing. Defense was incredible. If you
Yes.
have time to tune in for 5 seconds, I think that's going to be the overall gist of it. But Luke, I'm curious your thoughts. Obviously, we talked a lot all preseason and off season, saying how like we finally have a quarterback, we finally have an offense, and then they go out and put up a goose egg. I mean, 0 points.
Yeah.
Well, how were you feeling immediately after the game, and then maybe how are you feeling now after you've had some time to digest it?
I felt better. I felt better after the game than I haven't actually in the wake of it
Really?
because like honestly, it felt like it was Caleb Williams playing bad, the reason that we played bad during the game, and then upon like kind of going back and watching it again, the Bears offense played bad because everybody played bad.
Hmm.
Which is kind of like feels like slightly an indictment of the coaching staff, and like I kind of feel like the same way I feel like I'm singing the same kind of tune about um us playing the 49ers in that crazy rain game with Fields, where it was like, if the offense plays a little better and the defense plays the way they did, like this team could be good. And it's like maybe it's like I'm already starting to get a little bit worried because we've been like hurt so many times, but it's like that was, it was probably one of the worst offensive performances we've seen from the Bears in a while. Like,
Which is
not
saying,
like, yeah, not really exaggerating.
yeah,
And you thought it would be maybe a little bit better than what we saw from Justin Fields. Now, everybody looked jittery, and that was like my real takeaway. The second time we played, I went back and watched it. Now, that's not true of the defense. The defense has some fucking dogs, man, and they
yeah,
fully believe in themselves. And when they like really settled in at the start of that game, um, honestly, not even really settled in. A handful of bad run fits, and they got slashed on that drive, and then they got that crazy catch to Chidobe that should have been a field goal. Like it should have been really like maybe 7 really well earned points for them, 10 really well earned points, and whatever it is. I thought the Bears defense played great, but there wasn't a whole lot of life from the offense.
no, there was nothing offensively that was going right. Like you said, like Caleb didn't play well. There's no way around that. But yeah, just accept it. Offensive line didn't well. At least the interior of the offensive line didn't really play well. The wide receivers
Right.
weren't really getting a lot of separation. I thought the play calling and just the overall flow of the game was not where it needed to be from Shane Waldron. I tweeted this out after the game or a couple of days later once I rewatched, but it felt like he was calling plays for the fourth year for the Seahawks, not the first year for the
Right.
Bears. Like
Yeah.
he was calling plays that there was nothing easy. There was no easy
I know.
completion, or at least not early on. He started going to some early easy completions for Caleb like later on in the game once they already were struggling, once they were already down. But man, it just felt like there was no rhythm whatsoever. One step forward, two steps back the entire time.
Yeah.
And that we'll get into this later, but that's really what I want to see in week 2 is just get some easy completions and not screens. Like a screen is not wide receiver screens, not running back screens. Like an easy, just those outs to Keenan Allen were so effective.
Yeah.
With
Totally.
a bunch in a bunch formation, out of a bunch formation, just nice and easy little like 4 or 5 yards. He turns up field, gets 7, 8, 9, 10 yards first down. Like just keep doing that. If that's what the defense is giving you. Just take it. You know.
Yeah.
I thought they were running the ball a little bit at first couple runs of the game were pretty successful. They got like 6 yards and 5 yards, like the first 2 runs of the game,
Yep.
and then just kind of abandoned it. And then when they went back to it, it just wasn't there. So
Right.
it just felt disjointed and just not good. In the moment, I was full blown panic mode. Typical like the meatball took over, and I was like,
Yep.
this is it. Caleb Williams sucks. It's happening again. This is the worst case scenario. After a couple days to digest it and look at it without the the bias in my mind of being a lifelong Bears fan,
Yeah.
I did feel a little bit better because I thought there were just some things that I thought the Titans were playing extremely well. And the Titans have two monster defensive tackles,
Totally.
and that is just their strength going against our offensive weakness, which is the
Right.
interior of the offensive line, and they just controlled the game because of that.
Yeah.
We're not going to go up against another team who has two monsters like that in Jeffrey Simmons and Devontae Sweat.
Totally.
And if we
Devontae
do,
Sweat, man.
yeah, Devontae Sweat was
How's that for you? How's that? That's his first game in the NFL, right?
first game in the NFL.
Damn.
I mean, he did. I mean, he looked the way he looked in college. Not to get too far on like a Titans
And amongst boys.
he looked how he did. It looked in college. The worry about Devontae Sweat was, does he want to be great? And he wanted to be great in week 1.
Yeah. Didn't he also he had something come up really close to the draft? It was like an under the influence driving or like something to do with like something.
Yeah. It was something. I think it was just. It might have been that. It also was just like work ethic concerns about him, and also just is a guy who's 360 pounds going to be able to play.
Yeah.
As much as he did, but yeah,
they definitely matched up well to some of the things that I think the Bears had weaknesses on. I also think that, like I said, there were slightly some things across the board from the Bears that were I don't think any one person was to blame, and it kind of felt like anytime something was getting going, someone found a way to blow it. I felt like in the first half, Shelton had a couple of really obvious ones. Yeah. Caleb had some bad plays and blew that field goal drive up by taking the sack. Mm-hmm. And then, Keenan Allen drops a touchdown. So it was like, you really just couldn't catch a break where the thing started to click. But on the flip side, not to sound like the same thing young Luke O'Grady said when they beat the 49ers in, 2023, or 2022, whenever it was. But it's interesting to see that the offense can play about as bad as the offense is possible to play, and this team can hang around. And other than the block punt, which is not something you can expect to happen every time, that defense did a really, really good job of putting the clamps on. No second half points.
Yeah, I mean, how about Darrell Taylor coming in and having the game of his life?
Taylor.
I shouldn't say game of his life because he's been a good pro in Seattle for a while, but just having a really good game, which is not really something I had on the bingo card. I thought he'd be a good situational pass rusher, guy who can maybe take some heat off of Devontae Sweat. But man, he was the leading pass rusher. I mean, Montez Sweat obviously played really well too, but he really turned that game around and yeah, that was just something not expected. And if he can do that on a week by week basis,
oh my goodness, man!
Then you have Montez Sweat and Javon Dexter was splashing, and even Andrew Billings was getting off the cap.
Seriously, I mentioned this. Marcus Walker was the best pass rusher on the team on the day. I would say he was so consistently in the backfield.
Yeah.
But I made like a string of thoughts after the game, and one of them was the Bears have a star at every level, and Edwards, Johnson, and Sweat. There's no doubt about that. If the rest of the guys can play like they did when I was looking at this matchup, I was thinking, man, Callahan's in town with a bunch of really highly rated prospects on that offensive line. That offensive line could give us some trouble, and I thought the Bears had their way with them. It was one of the best games Gervin Dexter's ever had as a pro. It was probably the best game that I think as a pass rusher that I think Billings has had as a Bear. It was the best game as a pass rusher that DeMarcus Walker's had as a Bear. It was, Darrell Taylor had 2 sacks and a forced fumble. Montez Sweat probably played the 4th best, 5th best at edge that day. It was.
Yeah.
Booker, you didn't need to hear anything from Booker either. It was
a full team effort, and like I said, they have stars at every level: Montez Sweat and Jalen Johnson and Edwards. I would almost put Tremaine Edmonds in there as well. I thought he played extremely well. He made that really nice half on 3rd down.
Wow, what a play!
That was. I mean, that was a star play.
That was a football play.
That was a football play. I think that Edmonds gets some heat because he is the higher paid of the 2 linebackers, and I think Edmonds has probably outplayed him from a production standpoint so far, but I think he's really good and a really good fit for this defense. So I'd put him in that category, and then if you and Tyreek Stevenson's on the come up too. So he played really well. I mean, there was that one touchdown that you kind of referenced earlier. Tyreek Stevenson had great coverage there.
There's a world where that's
maybe he needs to turn around a half second earlier, and just locate the ball a little bit better. But he was tight coverage on that one, so that could go either way on most days. So
that was slightly right in the middle of the anything that can go wrong will go wrong moment of the
Yeah.
game. Like the
Yep.
Valus kick happens like just after or just before. Like it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of almost give him a break on that. But how nice is it to come out of week one and both your starting corners of a pick? You know, you have two
Yep.
sacks from your rent a pass rusher that you got the week before on basically a vet minimum rookie
Yeah.
contract uh, for a 6th-round pick, and now you're going to have first rights to at least sign him to something else if he keeps this up. At the very least, a situational pass rusher.
Yeah. And you got a
Um,
sack from your second year D tackle, who everyone was kind of circling him this offseason. Like, this is the guy who has a chance to break out.
yeah,
And so far, he had a great game.
yeah,
So, 1 week, check that box. And if he keeps that up, then
yeah,
so that's nice. It's nice when the guy you have pegged to kind of break out has a really good week one. Because sometimes you're like, oh, this guy's gonna break out, and then week one he's completely non-existent. That
Caleb
didn't
Williams.
happen.
Oh my
Caleb
God.
Williams.
Well,
Well, we should probably talk about Caleb Williams.
well, it's funny because it is nice to say like if you want to have like a silver lining is that like going into the season, um, but if you want to have a silver lining around the fact that Caleb Williams' play was actually, it was what it was. It wasn't very good. At
Yeah,
least, yeah, honestly, it wasn't very good. He looked like he played nervous, but the silver lining is on the defensive side. Um, we went into the season. I was bullish on Tyreek Stevens. I thought he finished the last season out really nicely. I thought he was going to take a nice step. I thought him and Jalen Johnson were going to be enough to make that secondary really formidable. And the camp talk about Kyler Gordon had been really good too. So I was bullish on the secondary, and
yeah,
I already thought we had in place, rock solid, a top 10 linebacking core in the league. Tremaine Edmonds and T.J. Edwards together, no doubt in my mind in that position. But I thought there's a chance that we have nobody behind Montez Sweat. There's
yeah,
a range of outcomes where he actually doesn't have anyone else that takes that step. Billings had some flashes last year, but there's no reason he needed to take a step forward. Demarcus Walker doesn't need to take a step forward, even though he is playing a better role for himself now. And there was the certainty that we were going to get good production out of someone like a Taylor or even a Booker. We don't know if we were going to see that step forward from Dexter. And all the early signs from one game, small sample size, but the early signs are that all those things are trending in the right direction. Nobody really looked like a slouch. It's unfortunate that Zach Pickens, who I think is a good part of that equation, was inactive due to his injury. But it's really hard to not be bullish about that defense if that pass rush and that defensive line can play a little bit up as opposed to maybe a little bit disappointing, which I think everybody kind of expected almost of them.
yeah. And they were able to get pressure with rushing four, which is huge. We saw a lot of blitzing last year, especially even when the Bears were playing, defense was playing well, like Kyler Gordon off the edge or Brisker off the edge. They didn't really have to do that at all in order to generate pressure. So that's great to see, and obviously that's going to help your defense. You don't need to be a great football mind to know how that works.
Yep.
So yeah, it's just the defense played about as well as you could possibly could. They won the game for them. I mean, if the defense plays just slightly just good to or above average, they lose that game. But they played great, and that's good to have in your back pocket. You don't want to rely on that every week.
No.
But rookie quarterback, I don't want. I mean, I'm gonna make excuses right now for Caleb Williams.
I am too. I have some stuff that I think is worth mentioning.
I'm gonna make.
But it is to say, I will say before we pass off on it, it isn't easy to say that you can rely on something like that. But I'm starting to get pretty impressed with the string of games and defensive performances that Eberflus is starting to put together, since he's taken over. That defense is almost starting to feel Levy-esque in the last 10-game stretch, where you're almost good for 2 turnovers a game. Yeah. And I think that leads into a conversation I want to have about the offense, about that turnover and how, maybe we're blowing up some of the mistakes strictly from a yards thing point of view. But it is nice to say that not only is that defense sound and not giving up a lot of points, but they're making plays. We won the turnover about 3-0.
I think you can rely on the Bears defense to be good or even above average. I don't think you can rely on Will Levis just throwing the ball up the grabs.
Yeah.
I mean, that Tyreek Stevenson pick six should have never happened. And if he just takes a sack there, the Titans win the game, most likely. I think that's really more what it comes to. Like Will Levis just being an absolute bonehead. You can't rely on like CJ Stroud isn't going to make that mistake in week 2. So your offense is gonna have to score some points. It's just there's no way around it. And we're gonna make excuses for Caleb Williams. It just is what it is. It's week one of his rookie year.
Yeah.
I know they're excuses, when I put out my tweet earlier this week, everyone was like, "You were just if you're making excuses." Like, yeah, I'm absolutely making excuses. If I'm still making excuses in week 15, 16, then you can call me out for anything you want. But I think there's some time here for an adjustment period that we need to give.
Totally. It's
Caleb.
not even really like making excuses, too. It's really just like saying, yeah, this is what rookie quarterbacks look like. It's not. It's just about having the grace to say that these games are going to happen.
Yeah.
And you would imagine, you could argue, you'd imagine that his first game will be his worst game. Hopefully, it doesn't get much worse than that. 100 passing yards isn't great.
Yeah.
But
if he doesn't hit 100 passing yards in week 2, then I think it's probably time to panic. 2 back-to-back weeks of that happening, that for the first overall pick, that's probably not a good sign.
Yeah.
But he doesn't need to throw for 300 yards in week 2 for me to be excited about him. But
no, nothing that's happened in week 1 has changed the way I think about Caleb as a prospect. Honestly, he looked completely nervous. He didn't look like anything I had seen in any of his tape. Honestly, he looked like he was trying to aim throws and dude, everything was coming out just like an absolute howitzer.
Yeah,
he was just humming it. So I think maybe there was a little bit of that, and I wonder. My instant thought after the first game was, what do you do as an offensive play caller going into game 1 for Caleb to get him into his own rhythm? Is that maybe incorporating some more stuff on the moves and incorporating some quick hitting stuff? Is it more like play action like we saw in the preseason? Whatever it is, whatever you decide during the week, that are things that you think he's doing really naturally well right now and can kind of just build that autopilot, not thinking, just playing kind of vibe, is I think should be a huge focus for them, because these Texans are going to be no joke, man.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like we said, kind of get easy completions, but it's more just if you look back at that game and their success rate on first down. Their success rate on first down was abysmal. How many 2nd and 10, 2nd and 11, 2nd and 12, 2nd and 14s did they have? That's just really hard for any quarterback to come back from where you're consistently in a 2nd and 12 situation. A lot of your play calls kind of go out the window there. You have to just kind of get some yards back, and then you're facing third down. And modern NFL offenses are all about avoiding third downs. But when you're in 2nd and 12, you're basically almost guaranteed to be facing a third down. And when you face enough third downs, you're gonna miss out on a lot of them. So just staying above in front of the chain, run the ball and get 3-4 yards, and face a 2nd and 6. You'll be fine. Or throw the ball and get 6-7 yards. But it felt like a lot of their plays were designed to be big hitters, and I don't think that Caleb Williams and just the offense in general was really ready for that. It's Rome Odunze's first week too. He only made that one catch and it was off a deflection. I think you have so many moving pieces with your offensive line too. New center, you have a right guard who has had issues in the past. Tevin Jenkins did not play well, especially to start that game. He
had a couple terrible plays. It felt like.
And they were all early. He kind of settled into it as the game went on, but he had some really bad plays. He was just as bad in my eyes as Coleman Shelton was.
Yeah.
Now I don't think I have more confidence that Tevin Jenkins is going to bounce back than I do Coleman Shelton. I think Coleman Shelton just kind of is who he is at this point. I think Tevin Jenkins is going to be much better.
I had a buddy of mine who's a Rams fan who was really high on Coleman Shelton. Said that all the Rams fans had love for him.
I thought his run blocking was pretty good when they can allow him to get on the move and get to the second level. He can do that. When you put him up, he's a 290-pound lineman, when you put him up against 360-pound Andre Sweat and Jeffrey Simmons, he's gonna have trouble blocking them. Simmons is incredible. So it was a bad matchup. And
my buddy from the Rams texted me the video of him getting blown over by the linebacker. It was I promised this was not who he was when he was with us. But I had the same kind of thought. I thought there was a handful of bad plays that made maybe Shelton's day look a little bit worse than it was.
Yeah,
I don't think he had a terrible day. Another thing to be excited about was Darnell Wright, man.
Darnell Wright played well. And Braxton Jones, too.
So he looks so good. out
Yeah.
there. His pass set looks so goddamn. It's everything that you liked about what he did at Tennessee. He's a little bit wider now. It looks more natural, and it's just
Mhm.
so good.
It was very smooth. Yeah,
Oh,
I put
oh
together kind of a
man,
video of it, and it was really impressive. The Titans really didn't challenge him too much with speed off the edge. They kind of just did
I
bull
know.
rush after bull rush after bull rush. I mean, that's not Darnell Wright. I'm not knocking Darnell Wright. Like I said, he had a great game. But if you try to bull rush, if your plan is to get bull rush Darnell Wright all game, like he's gonna win that battle 9 times out of 10. So, um, but I did think the few times he did have to handle speed, he handled it pretty well, and at least push the guy around the arc. And Caleb, it was nice to see. The one thing I will give Caleb Williams credit for, like he had a bad game, but he was stepping up into the pocket, which is
Totally.
really good to see for a young quarterback. I
Yeah.
mean, we've seen with Trubisky, with Fields, where they sense pressure and they start backing up, or they start moving to the left or moving to the right to avoid the pressure. No, Caleb Williams took just a step forward and kept his eyes downfield. So that was really good to see. Even if the accuracy, maybe the accuracy wasn't there the way he wanted, he missed throws, no doubt about it. But the way he maneuvered in the pocket was exactly what you saw in
Yep.
uh, in college, and that translates.
Yep.
The one play you kind of mentioned earlier, the sack, that 19-yard sack to take him out of
Can't
field goal.
happen.
It can't happen, but he did have. I mean, was that Sweat or Simmons? I don't know. The D tackle, whoever it
Oh,
was,
play got blown up.
right in his face
Totally.
immediately, and
Instant transmission.
you can't exactly throw the ball away when you're in the pocket like that. So he was trying to get out of the pocket, I think, to throw the ball away. Could he probably should have been able to get the ball out, but yeah, even that was a little iffy on if that was really his fault or not. 'Cause the play was just blown up almost immediately.
Play was blown up. 19 yards. That can't happen. I guess both are kind of true.
Keenan Allen's got to catch that. If Keenan Allen catches that touchdown pass, that's a game changer. The next play was a pass to Keenan Allen that got blown up. Coleman Shelton got knocked over. Now Coleman Shelton did get a little tripped with his legs got locked up, but still the linebacker just made a nice play. But that would have been a touchdown if that didn't happen. A couple other plays.
Keenan Allen drops Caleb Williams touchdown, and Caleb Williams skies Keenan Allen on a really nice wheel route, like out and up earlier.
That was the one where everything went perfectly. Protection held up.
Oh my! Literally everything except Caleb Williams. So it was like, there was some stuff. There was some stuff Caleb did good. Dude, when he ran for that first down in the fourth, or maybe it was late in the third, but that was like majorly impressive. I remember looking at it thinking like, oh, you idiot! Like, why did you tuck this? It's third. It's not going to work. And then he just went, whoop. Buddy like slipped right by him. Like I think I still underestimate his ability as a runner. And I actually wanted to get your thought on this. Like, how much do you think the Bears should utilize him as like a +1 player in the run game? Or do you think it's more of like a nice to have than like something that you want to be utilizing a lot?
There were times in the game where I was saying, like when it was like third and short, when I was saying do a read option.
Yeah.
I think you do that. I don't think it's something you want to rely on, but on those I love running like a read option on those third and short, fourth and shorts, because it's pretty easy money to get half a yard, a full yard on stuff like that. Like you just read
that's the type of play too that could be something that settles him in a little bit more.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, like a really natural runner, and that probably takes a little bit less thinking and more just going out and doing for him.
Yeah, and it was weird seeing him. You kind of mentioned this earlier, and I wanted to talk about it, so I'm kind of backtracking a little bit. But you mentioned that he seemed a little like nervous, which I think so too. Which is interesting because I remember in the Hard Knocks, he's like, I don't get nervous. But
that's funny.
I think that it was pretty clear that he was a little bit nervous. He even kind of admitted it. I think it was either yesterday or today where he said when someone asked like, what can you improve on? He said, my drops are too fast. Like his dropbacks, and like that makes complete sense. Like if you're a little bit nervous, you're going to speed things up a little. You're going to speed your process up a little bit because you think that's what you need to do, but you don't. You need to be in the rhythm of the offense.
100%.
I think that will help him a lot.
It's like trying to swing fast in your golf swing.
Right, never works. But it's also really hard to. It's really easy to say that.
I know. Hard to actually just let it. I know, but I do agree. I think if you watched Caleb's tape, I think it screams nerves. Just screams nerves. Like he was throwing. It looked like he was aiming fast. He was throwing things way too hard. He was even. I don't know if you noticed this. I wonder if people notice this. He always like has his thumbs in his hands, and it's like it's a weird like type of posture, and like it seems like he does it kind of slightly when he's excited, but I also didn't notice it in big moments, and I'm noticing it on the Bears, and I'm wondering if there's anything there. But even what's his name? Even Cole Kmet said like he may say like he doesn't get nervous, but he's like I don't know, man. He's like even that first preseason game when he played, he's like I kind of felt like maybe there was a little bit of nerves there. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's going to take them a couple of games. Maybe it's not going to happen like just in the next game too. It's a tough one going into a team that I don't know if I would say they have a great defense, but they have a lot of good defensive players. The scheme I'm in, I don't know if they're putting their people in the best position to succeed, but they got Daniil Hunter there, Will Anderson, they got
Yeah.
they got that corner is absolutely insane. What's that corner's name? They got a good team, and it's not an easy one to turn around and then start to expect to be a great quarterback in either. So I think when you're saying you're making excuses, you're definitely also giving him some grace and saying that that's probably not the last time he's going to play bad either. But I think once he gets used to just playing in the NFL and kind of has those NFL nerves gone, none of the stuff that you really saw or those issues that you saw were things that seemed to be issues that he had in college as well.
Yeah, I think unfortunately Keenan Allen.
I wonder if I always wonder about these moments where it's like if am I frozen or are you frozen? Because from my point of view, I can hear you slightly. Well, fans, Bears want to know. Coming out of taking down Tennessee. Tennessee probably deserved to take that win, but like I said, that defense really proved themselves to be more than just the talk, the preseason hype. There was a lot of talk around what they would be and what they could be, and I think they backed it up in week one by showing that was an elite type effort. Obviously, not 1 week is gonna prove that over a season. You're gonna have to do it a couple of times, but that defense is off to a great start. It's really promising. If this offense could start to take some steps in the right direction, that could be really could be an exciting team, man. The stars could start to align for them for sure. Looking ahead, we got looking ahead, we got the Texans. They looked beatable. Watching a little bit of that Colts game. Like I said, I think they have good defensive players, but I think that they can, you can beat them on defense. You can go at some of their weaknesses. I also don't know how scheme tight they are. But they got C.J. Stroud, man. They got Tank Dell. They got Nico Collins. They got Stephon Diggs. They got dogs. And it's going to take a good defensive effort to keep this game under about 20 points. And if that's the case, we're going to have to see a lot better performance from Caleb Williams in that offense. And I think that's doable. I think, what you got out of the offense was a lot of field goal opportunities in week one against the Titans. And I think if you're the Bears this week, I would say, if we can get 2 offensive touchdowns and maybe 2 field goals throughout the game, that could be enough with a good defensive performance to do it. Hey, bud.
What I miss?
We wrapped up Titans and we were starting to talk about Texans.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. What were you saying?
Well, I was saying that the Titans and the Texans are 2 totally different beasts. You got Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell. They got Joe Mixon now, and obviously C.J. Stroud. Those guys are not going to hold the 17 points. But if the defense plays great, maybe you hold them to 21. So I was saying that if you're the Bears offense this week, you don't need to say, hey, we had a terrible week 1. Now we got to go and throw 7 touchdowns. If you can think, hey, don't turn the ball over again, and get 2 offensive touchdowns, You got a good punter and a good defense that'll earn you a handful of field goals throughout the game too. That you can probably, the Colts just put up damn near 30 against them. You can probably manufacture 20 points against this team. If the defense plays great, that'll keep you in the game. Now, if you have any more performance, if you can get 3 touchdowns on offense, there's a good chance the Bears can compete. But that would be the formula going into Houston on Sunday night and having a chance of winning.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. 2 touchdowns, I think, is fair. That gives you at least a good chance. 3 touchdowns probably wins you the game if they get to that. Because you're right, you're going to get a couple field goals. You're not going to have a special teams turnover. Hopefully, Bayless Jones is not returning kicks, and you just when you get the kickoff, you're going to keep it. You're probably also not going to get a pick 6 off C.J. Stroud. So maybe that kind of cancels it out. But yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it. I think you're right. You don't want to go into week 2 saying, "Oh, the defense carried us last week. We have to carry us this week, and we have to show that your offense is good too." I think that's a bad way to look at it.
No.
Just go do your thing. Just run your offense. Don't try and do too much. Don't try to be hero. Take care of the ball, and just you have that defense in your back pocket. And I think the way that they kind of that team ran around, I think, shows a lot of how the locker room camaraderie and what Flus has kind of built there. Even though I was cursing out Flus in my living room for the first 3 quarters of that game, but I think the resiliency really showed. So just do your thing. Just stay ahead of the sticks, like I said. Don't get too cute with your offense. Run the ball. I'd love to see us run the ball a little bit more, especially I think with the Titans, there was clearly a strategy to get the ball on the perimeter in the run game. I mean, all of them were sweeps and just outside zone, all that stuff, because they had those 2 stud D tackles. The Texans are the exact opposite. They have 2 stud D ends, and their D tackles are not very good. So I would love to see us kind of run the ball up the middle a little bit more. Again, that's going to help you stay ahead of the sticks. I think that's what they're going to do, and I would love to see DeAndre Swift get more involved in the game.
Yep.
I mean, we should be running the ball. I mean, I know you got Caleb Williams. You want to throw the ball. You want to put up a ton of points, but we should be running the ball 25 times a game with DeAndre Swift, and just control the ball and win the time of possession battle. And I think you win a lot of games that way with this team. In 2024, in 2025, we need to maybe have a conversation. If we're still doing that, then we have a different conversation on our hands. 2025 is really the year where you let Caleb Williams kind of just air it out and do his thing. But we need to just win some ball games, and the way to do that with this team is to control the ball.
Yeah, I mean, if you're the offense, you don't need to think about what you need to do to save the game anymore, right? Yeah. Last week, the offense did nothing, and you guys won. Imagine if you just didn't do nothing. If you did just a little bit of something, how good that we could be. And if you get to 2025, obviously we want to see this become Caleb Williams' team. But, like I said, we gave Justin Fields 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
We got more. Caleb, I got a ton of time for you, man.
Yeah, man. You got at least 2 years before I start turning.
Good. 100%.
Yeah.
So that would be my message for the offense. We know that this is going to be a work in progress. A lot of you guys are playing football together for the very first time. That's not true of the defense this year.
You're right.
So it's like, we don't need you to be world beaters immediately. You got to get better each and every week. That's what we want to see. Don't make the same mistakes twice, kind of thing. Your typical coaching stuff. But I think that is what the message should be going to the Titans. Yep. If you do take a little bit of a step forward on offense, based on the performance that we've come to kind of expect from this defense, you probably will have a chance in the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Sunday night. So, I mean, if the nerves are probably – we talked about the nerves of Caleb Williams. I mean, it's going to be probably a little bit nerve-wracking.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday night football on the road. I was kind of mentioning this before my stream cut out, but it would have been nice if Keenan Allen caught that pass from Caleb Williams, because getting that first touchdown off his back, I think is big for Caleb.
Totally.
I can just almost see it. I mean, it's big for anyone. You get that first career touchdown, and then it would feel like a weight is lifted off your shoulders. I hope he doesn't try to press too much before that first touchdown comes. Just let it come naturally. If you just play within the offense, that touchdown's going to come. It's going to be there. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he looks kind of coming out of the gate. Sunday Night Football. to see if those nerves are maybe still a little bit there.
Yeah.
But hopefully they're not.
The first touchdown thing's interesting. You definitely don't want to. You definitely don't want to force it. It is a it is a bit of a cool milestone though.
Yeah.
I bet you he thinks about it. And honestly, if you're nervous for Sunday at home versus the Titans, there's probably going to be some level of nerves for Sunday Night Football on the road versus a good playoff team with a quarterback that came in the year before as a rookie and did some stuff, did numbers, kind of like almost historically did some numbers. So there's definitely going to be those parallels being drawn each week. I'm sure that Caleb Williams and CJ Stroud are probably already on a talking basis anyway, and they're fairly similar along the journey. So it'll be cool to see that kind of duality. Someone in year two, like kind of expecting to take that step, kind of their team now, versus a guy getting his first primetime NFL experience. I think, fans expecting Caleb to duel it out with CJ might be a little bit disappointed. It's probably not what our offense is anyway. But just temper expectations, probably.
I think also going up against CJ Stroud might add a little bit to that too, because Caleb's been hearing it all off season where it's like, oh, Caleb Williams has to have a CJ Stroud type rookie year to be successful. Like CJ Stroud kind of set the bar, so going up against him is kind of only adding to that a little bit. But again, you don't have to outduel CJ Stroud. You have to outduel the Texans defense. So you're not playing against CJ Stroud. You're playing against the Texans.
True. And devil's advocate, is there a world where Bears offense breaks out in this game?
It's completely possible. As a Caleb Williams, DJ Moore fantasy football owner, I really hope so, because I got absolutely crushed in week 1. It was bloodbath.
This could be the DJ Moore game.
That would be nice. I would love that. It'd be nice.
But if you look at the Bears schedule and think, a handful of times this year the Bears are going to get hot and put some tape on, put some stuff on tape to make it all worth it in the offseason when you're watching next year. If the Bears, actually, you know what? Bears low key has some tough games to start the season.
But it is nice. It is nice to not have any divisional games for a while. I think that's going to be good for them in the long run, because you can kind of lose a few games early on in the season and still be in it because you have all your divisional games left. If you win your divisional games, you can win the division. Get those tiebreakers and stuff.
Yep.
So I think that's good. But I think with this, if there is an offense, if this is the offensive breakout, maybe we're on the zone and they do break out, it's going to come down to John R. Wright and Braxton Jones versus Daniel Hunter and Will Anderson. I think that's really the matchup to watch. Both Jones and Wright played well in week 1. The Titans off the edge are not as strong as the interior. So this is really their first big test. John R. Wright going into his year 2, he played well as a rookie. He played well in week 1. I really want to see him he doesn't have to win every rep versus those guys, but play, win most of them. Keep Caleb as clean as he possibly can. Same thing with Braxton Jones. Is this year 3 or year 4? 3, right, for Jones?
Braxton Jones, year 3.
Year 3. You're in year 3. I know you're going up against 2 studs, but year 3 offensive tackle, and you're looking for a contract here soon. This is the game where you gotta step up. So it's going to be really. I really hope that those 2 guys kind of solidify their spots here. Not that anyone's coming from their spots, but solidify their place in the league. I should say, and kind of be okay. The Bears have 2 stud, or at least above average offensive tackles, would be really, really nice. And then the interior of the outside line, obviously Tevin Jenkins is going to play better. The Texans D-line, the interior line, I think they had Mario Edwards, I think was on there when I looked earlier. So they should be able to handle themselves. Coleman Shelton should play better. I thought actually Nate Davis played well. He was in a rotation with Ryan Bates. I thought both of them played at least good enough to win. I don't think they were a liability whatsoever. So but that edge versus offensive tackle is really going to be what, if they do take the next step, it's going to be because those guys stepped up more than anything.
Yeah. I said it a little bit earlier. It might have been when you were disconnected, but it seems like the Texans have some good players, but not exactly a really cohesive defense. They kind of got scored on a little bit last year and are off to a start of it this year as well. If those players are some pass rushers and some defensive backs. Like you said, if Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright can play good, this could be a matchup that technically on paper doesn't actually look so bad for the Bears. It's a good offense versus a good defense. I don't know if I totally love our defense versus their offense. Theirs is probably one of the better offenses in the league.
Yeah, some matchups there.
So you're going to give up some points. But if there was, a team that the Bears could probably have a good offensive game against, I think that this is a team that makes sense. I don't think they have a Jeffrey Simmons on their defensive line.
Right.
I don't think they have, and that I would say that as a quality of pass rusher on the whole, or a presence like a Devondre on the defensive line either. The place is strong, we're strong.
Or L'Jarius Sneed is probably better is a better corner than anyone on the Texans, even though they have some nice pieces there.
They have that one corner who's actually dirty. What's his name?
Derek Stingley or
Stingley, man.
Yeah,
I know.
But I still think
have a bunch of talent around him.
L'Jarius Sneed is probably a top 10 cornerback in the league. Stingley's probably in that conversation too. But the Titans also had the other corner, I can't remember his name now, but he's also a really good corner. So I think the Titans defense is much better than the Texans defense, which I think was what you were kind of alluding to. So there's definitely some opportunities there. It's going to be interesting to see how healthy the Bears are. Rome Odunze is day-to-day, didn't practice today. Keenan Allen day-to-day, didn't practice today. There's a world where they go into this game without either of those two guys, which would be – then you basically have your wide receiver room from last year. You have DJ Moore, who's awesome, obviously. Tyler Scott, Bayless Jones, who am I missing? DeAndre Carter. That's not a good wide receiver room. So hopefully –
DeAndre Carter was getting some looks early, wasn't he?
Yeah, because they had to. Keenan Allen was a little bit banged up early in the game, and they only kept 4 wide receivers because Tyler Scott was inactive. So DeAndre Carter had to kind of get some run. So I imagine Tyler Scott's going to be active this week with those both. Even if Allen and Odunze, play, I imagine Scott's going to be active and rotating in. But that will be interesting because that obviously would make Caleb Williams' job a lot more difficult if those two guys can't play. My guess is Keenan Allen does play because he's a veteran. He's just kind of he doesn't really need to practice during the week. Odunze is probably more of a long shot.
Odunze feels like a long shot. From what I could tell, it looked like that.
Yeah, it's not. When it happened and it was reported he's getting an MRI, I was thinking short-term IR at least. So
I was thinking season. I was thinking.
Yeah, the fact that he's not on IR at all, and even if he misses a week or even 2, whatever, that's fine. Get healthy. That's all that matters.
Yeah, it felt like Odunze was the one I was worried about. Keenan Allen, to me, even the way they talked about it, seemed like it was maybe more, like you said, a veteran day for him.
Well, yeah, it's like he had the injury going into week 1, and he played. He doesn't need the practice reps during the week.
No,
let him rest and he'll be fine.
But you never know when it's when it is like that, or it's the Christian McCaffrey. Everything's fine until it isn't. Yeah. So we'll see. That's why you have a DJ Moore. At the end of the day, he is the wide receiver 1 for that reason, and he's our guy.
Other thing I'd like to see. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'd like to see more Cole Kmet. I don't know why Gerald Everett outsnapped Cole Kmet. I don't think Cole Kmet's a top 5 tight end in this league, but I think he's a solid guy, and he's going to help with run blocking too. He's got to be on the field, and he's also just kind of like a safety valve. I feel like Gerald Everett was out there. He was on the outside running goes. It's like, why are we doing this?
Throwing screens to him.
It's like, why are we trying to make Gerald Everett a thing? Gerald Everett's a nice complementary piece to have on your team. He should not be a focal point of your offense.
No, and you could, it could be that you're learning an offense. Week 1 execution, you take the guy that's played in this offense before, which Cole Kmet hasn't and Gerald Everett hasn't. Yeah. But you just paid Cole Kmet top 10 end money. You didn't do that to outsnap the guy that you signed for dollars and strings off the street.
Exactly. He's got. He only had that one target, 1 reception for 4 or 5 yards, whatever it was. I'm not saying you need to target him a ton, but I think him just being on the field is good. It seemed like they brought him in for run plays, took him off the field for pass plays, which is just never a good idea to do. That brings me back to the John Fox offense days and stuff like that. Mark Johnson days where
we're going to do all the time. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. We were just bringing you're bringing in your blocking tight end. I guess they're going to run the ball now. you can't have that. You gotta. So that would be really nice to see. Get him involved a little bit more.
They did leave Mercedes Lewis out in an empty set though to run a route, and it was like, okay, come on. It's like if you're gonna run a route with them, at least do it out of a run set, so like there's value in it.
Right.
It's not like I'll do whatever the hell I want. I'll get them running option routes.
Yeah. Get more. I mean, at least if you have Mercedes Lewis running go routes, like that's funny, and I'll get some enjoyment out of that. Like, come on. But we'll see. I after the game, I was very pessimistic. I am a little bit more optimistic now. I think I don't know if the Bears are going to win because the Texans, as we've discussed, are a really good football team. So you don't need to win this game for me to feel better. If the offense does go out and scores 3 touchdowns and maybe gets a field goal, put up 24 points, and I'd be like, okay, yeah, hey, whatever. They got us this week, but the offense bounced back. That's all I really will need to see. I said it all offseason. I want to see growth and progression from Caleb Williams and the offense. I don't need to win a Super Bowl this year. It'd be great if they did, but I don't need it. I just want them to look good and have a competent offense. It might take a few weeks to get there, but I think they will get there eventually.
Yeah, me too. I don't have even a little bit of panic in me. I'm actually really excited. I still think that what we saw from the Bears offense was such a far cry from what they probably should be week 1 that, I think when they kind of get back to what, even if it's like, a middle of the pack or below average offense, not like an all-time bad offensive performance type thing, then this team will be fine. And as they start to build some momentum, I think that's when you'll really start to see Caleb kind of come into his own as he learns the offense more and takes the command of the offense and that type of thing. But also just starts to get some more games under him, realizes he doesn't need to be the star and has some leeway to make some mistakes and kind of figure this whole NFL thing out. So if he goes out, honestly, if he goes out and throws 4 picks again, that's fine. Get it out of your system, bud.
Maybe not 5, but
throw I know you like serious, like I guess I was talking this to my dad earlier today. Like what I've seen from him in college and the stuff that I think I need to see from him is still true even after like week 1. And if he goes and throws 5 picks, that stuff's still true. Still true too. He's probably closer to like the college Caleb Williams than he is to just the 2-game NFL Caleb Williams that would look so bad. Yeah. So I'd still believe that the player that you drafted is there. That wouldn't worry me.
Sure.
The pass just takes some time.
Yeah, and we mentioned this before we got on, but I think it's worth mentioning while we're live is that offense was down, passing especially was down across the league. The Bears offense was one of the worst, but there were only a couple guys threw for 300 yards. A lot of guys threw for under 200 yards. The offense was just down.
And something I made a point about after the game, and I think is underrated, is that the offense had no fumbles and no picks. Mm-hmm. It made a difference. You want to know how a team with no offensive touchdowns wins a game? They win the turnover battle 3-0.
Right. And there really weren't any. Maybe one, I guess, turnover-worthy play, you call it, where a ball maybe could have been picked. It was the ball that got deflected and bounced up in the air, and then Romo Dunze came down.
So many of them.
But that's the only one that comes to my mind. Every other one, it's not like the Titans were out there dropping passes or anything like that. Like there weren't bad decisions. I felt like by Caleb Williams. Maybe you could nitpick the taking of the sack, sure. But besides that, he was getting the ball out quickly. He was getting the ball out in rhythm. He might have been moving a little bit too quickly. I think there was a lot of small things, little things that show he's a rookie, but it's gonna get there eventually. And I think he's got to be a little bit patient.
He had a little quick play action, maybe RPO slant to DJ Moore. I thought maybe had a chance to get picked, and then a couple of those that popped up. Credit to the defensive line too. I'm not even really sure it was a Caleb Williams being short thing. I think it's just they have huge individuals that are also just really good at the game.
Yeah.
So, those were the plays that were scary. The sack he took was the worst, but like I said, if you took a bad sack, got some passes batted up in the air. He missed some throws, but he never put the ball really into harm's way. He had some good throws that got dropped. He probably threw it too hard sometimes. But, if that's the scouting report, the ship isn't sinking. And like I said, the fact that the ball stayed protected throughout that is really, really impressive. You don't turn the ball over, you always have a chance to win the game. It's just a fact. We said this last year when Tyson Bagent went in. Tyson Bagent went in and had a 0 turnover game and had like 1 offensive touchdown, and they won the game when he went in against the Raiders. And it's like it seemed crazy that you have this undrafted free agent coming in and beating a team in his first NFL start. But when you looked at like Justin Fields, it was like how many times had Justin Fields had 0 turnovers and like 1 offensive touchdown as a pro? He had done it like 2 times ever, and he was 2-0 in those games.
Right.
It's like it actually isn't insane, and little things like that are like probably would be good reminders to Caleb at this point in the season, and just say it doesn't, like, especially when you have a good defense, it actually doesn't take much to hang around the NFL. Don't turn the ball over, especially when you have a good punter like Tory Taylor. If you have a good defense, man, you can always hang around.
Yeah, very true. I think that's the formula for now, and that's perfectly fine. We should all be okay with that, because at the end of the day, if you get some wins, who cares? Who cares if Caleb Williams is throwing for 180 yards, 200 yards, whatever it is? If you come away with a W, I think they have the defense to do that. Tory Taylor, I think Eberflus described him as a weapon. I think that was actually, and it was a little bit of a joke, and I was, been tongue-in-cheek joking about it, but I think it was actually kind of true on Sunday. He was hitting some bombs.
So, I felt awesome having him out there. It felt great. Like, actually, anytime that it was like, we were on our 30, we had to punt, it's like we could pin them. We start in a 30. If we're punting from there, it's like having a guy that you can think this could spin out and get them inside the 10 is huge.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
What do you think? Any other thoughts?
I was just pulling up my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to mention, but it closed when I lost my connection. Hold on. Let's see. What else?
I got no more doubt in my mind. Jalen Johnson's the best corner in football.
Got it. Yep. I said this. Jalen Johnson's the best quarterback in football, and that means Tyreek Stevenson is the most important quarterback in football, because I don't think teams are even going to look Jalen Johnson's way, and Tyreek Stevenson is going to get targeted just like he was last year a ton, and we saw it at the second half of last season. He held his own. I thought he held his own on week 1, and I think he's going to hold his own the rest of the year. So if you have one side of the field pretty much locked down, teams aren't even going to look there. You got the other side of the field where Tyreek Stevenson's maybe not locked down, not locking his man up, but playing just really solid coverage. And you have Kyler Gordon over there. And
it's actually a nice little like blend, because if you don't go at Jalen, it means you're going to be throwing more like high volume at Tyreek. And I think that Tyreek is almost more of a playmaker than Jalen is, despite the fact that Jalen's a way better corner. And I like that opportunity that you're having to throw all the time at a guy who has, now he's got 5 career picks and basically like 16, 17 career games. Like, the guy's a playmaker.
Yeah, he's got good ball skills. Yeah, that's a good point. So yeah, that's not the end of the world. So man, the defense is. It sucks. It doesn't suck. It's great that the Bears have a good defense. Obviously, I want the Bears to start winning with offense, but man, it's so nice to have just that defense. It's just.
It felt like. It felt like, back in the day when like the Bears had from like 2006 to like 2014, even like for the 2 or 3 years after we lost Levy, while we still had like Urlacher and Briggs.
Yeah.
Things were just different on defenses, man. People didn't carve us up for 150 yards rushing. Like, that was unheard of. Like, turnovers just happened. Anytime that there was like a rise to the occasion game, like, our defense almost never got blown out. And it was almost like, it almost slightly felt like you were going in on offense when the defense would go out, because you had so many playmakers on that team. There was a little bit of that vibe in 2018 as well. But for a while, man, like we had been devoid of a defense that I really trusted. Even into 2019, what was the defense of 2018 wasn't there anymore. Like, this feels like a really good defense.
Yeah, I mean, there were times after those years that you're talking about where you'd be like, okay, our defense sucks, like, it's terrible. Your offense is forced to punt, and like, shit, like now that we got 0 points and we're giving them 7, and now it's like, okay. The offense comes out, has 3 and out, whatever happens. They punt. It's like, okay, that's fine. We'll get the ball back and we'll get another chance. And like, that's just such a great mindset to have where you're not punting the ball away and just be like, ah, shit, now we got to watch us play defense. Now we're going to give up a touchdown.
Totally.
And then the game's over.
Like, and it's like they're good on first down.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're good on first down. It's 2nd and 9. It's 2nd and 11. And then the third down is like, whatever it is, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 5, or 3rd and 4. So many more of those, just executing, testing the offense and letting like your good players go to work. When you win on first down, like everything is different. And it felt like those like old Lovey teams and those lacquer teams, like those guys won on first down and were good at those run stuffs and stuff. And you got that with like Akeem Hicks and Khalil Mack, and you were getting it a lot with Walker and Billings and Tez and Darrell Taylor. At least one game sample size. It's funny to say, but off what should be a good offensive line, the Bears' defensive line looked pretty darn good.
I'll say first down is the most important down. If you're successful on first down, even if you will be more successful on third down, and that goes both ways for offense and defense.
Totally.
So yeah. Anything else? I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited for the game. I hate Sunday night and Monday night football games only from a personal, selfish reason. I just like getting up and watching the game like at noon.
I know.
It just sucks to wait all day. That's just a personal.
It's so crazy to think that you get the games at noon, which means your nighttime game starts at 7:20.
Central Time's the best time zone to watch football.
Wow, 7:20 nighttime game is so good. What time's the game end at?
Like 11. 11:30 midnight, maybe the latest.
Dude, yeah, the games legit always end at 1:00 my time. It's a nightmare. You stay up to watch a football game and you feel like you hit by a train the next day.
The reason we didn't do a pod last week, mostly because I was in Arizona as a work conference, and Arizona is now 2 hours ahead of Central Time. So I was watching the Thursday night football game at like 5:30, and I was like, this is incredible. The game was over, and I was like, okay, time for bed. I was like, no, it's like 8:00.
Yeah, it's time to go for dinner.
Yeah. So that was actually kind of fun to watch. But I still think Central Time's the best time zone to watch sports.
I like the 2:00 start. I loved it when it was 1:00 when I lived in just outside of Toronto in Eastern Time. I think that I agree with you. I think Central is probably would be my favorite as well. The prime time slot starting at 7 is so good.
Not too early. The game doesn't end too late. It's like perfect timing. So, but anyway, Sunday night football will be exciting. We're wearing the orange jerseys, which I like. I know a lot of people don't, but I like the orange jerseys. So that'll be fun. And then it should be a good game. I'm excited to watch CJ Stroud too, just from like a football fan perspective, not a Bears fan. I like watching CJ Stroud. I like watching the Texans offense. I hope they're not successful at all, but I like watching them, so that'll be fun too.
I thought that the Texans, from the little bit I watched, I was surprised at how long Stroud was holding it. I thought he was holding it a little bit longer than he needed to. I thought maybe there's be some opportunities there. But I think the story of the game for the Bears will be kind of what we just talked about. If the offense can do well on first down and then allow themselves to get to the run game and do stuff a little bit more off that run game, and if the defense can do well on first down, Bears should have a chance. I think that'll be the story of the game. How well both phases do on first down will give them a chance.
Bears have a chance at 2-0.
Bears have a chance. That's actually the fun part. This game last year, we're getting fucked up.
Yeah. Bears will have a chance, in every game this year, which is nice. They're not going to win every game, obviously, but it was really nice watching the game and having those butterflies in my stomach.
Oh, totally. I want them to be real again. I want the Bears go out and score a touchdown or have a good first offensive drive too. Holy smokes, man! The way I'm going to feel is going to be insane.
Yep.
Anyway, yeah.
So we'll be back hopefully next week. I know we missed last week, but hopefully we'll be back next week. We'll break down the Texans game. We'll talk about whoever we're playing week 3. I can't remember. Colts. Sounds great. Well, until next week, bear down, everyone.
Bear down. 11:03 my time. Perfect.